Here it is, the final third of our top 100 prospect list, Jack. We've been flying through this thing, and man, we have now maybe some of the more exciting recent drafted names. And then as we keep going, it's going to turn into the best prospects in baseball. It's the call up. I'm Aram Layton, Jack McMullen over here. Jack, we are about to get into some big time names as well as some guys that just debuted. So I think it's a really fun group here as we go from 30 to 21 in our top 100 prospect list.
Do you want to say it or do you want me to say it?
You can say it.
This is the best group of 10 we've gone through so far.
And then we're going to say it again next time.
Yep. And then the time after that, it's like, okay, yeah, this is the final one.
This is the top 10. But we're at 30 to 21. A wide range. And that's what's really fun about each group of 10. This group has several players who have debuted. A guy that might be the AL Rookie of the Year favorite or one of, and then a couple guys that literally like just debuted in the minors. So it's all over the map. That's what makes these top 100 lists fun. We're going to get into Lawler versus Meyer, all of that good stuff. We talked about it a lot on the Just Baseball show, and we'll get more into the individual debuts of Alec Thomas and George Kirby as we get to them. Thomas we'll talk about today. Kirby is in the next 10, which I'm excited because we will probably spend a little bit more time on him than everybody else. But it was really fun to watch George Kirby debut, man. And again, we'll get into who he is as a pitcher on the next episode as we count down. But that was about as good as advertised in his first outing for the Mariners.
No, so he and Alec Thomas, I mean, you and I have had that dialogue, and you and I see eye to eye on a lot of these guys, which I think is why you keep inviting me back to go over these 10. But you and I see eye to eye on a lot of these guys. And if you had to pick two of these guys that, are outside the J-Rods of the world and outside the Torkelsons of the world to be this high floor, really solid pro for 15 years, those are two of the guys that you just mentioned, George Kirby, Alec Thomas. We're going to go over Alec Thomas today. We're going to go over Kirby tomorrow. And those are two guys that we have seen eye to eye on for the last couple of years, where how high can we put them to the point where it's criminal, but it's not overly criminal?
Yeah. Alec Thomas, it was funny. I definitely, when you and I were talking about him and I was like, yeah, Jackson too, like how high can we put this guy up there? And it's the ceiling thing, right? The floor versus ceiling. And we'll get to that. But once I saw Kylie McDaniel throw him at like 14 or whatever it was, I was like, all right, let's not be afraid to be aggressive here and fire from the hip. And that's something, I think we're going to start to see a little bit more of, is not letting the other rankings get in the way of where we really do rank guys. And I think there's a couple cases of that in this wave of 10, which we'll get to, and we'll point those out as we get there. The first two guys are guys that it's really easy to place up there. There's not much crazy insight that goes into it because these were the two of the top high school prospects in the last draft class. But Marcelo Mayer comes in at 30, Jordan Lawler at 29. I think the best way to really discuss this tandem is as a tandem and kind of discuss why we put Lawler ahead of Meyer. And this was more of a push from me. So I'm curious what you think about, my ultimate decision to rank Lawler ahead of Meyer, given that we have to be honest with ourselves and the listener here. We've only seen so much of these two guys, right? I mean, and especially when we made this ranking, it was really almost at the beginning of the season. So we didn't even have the 13 games of each of these guys in the low A. Right. It's really very limited looks. But from what I got there, ultimately, I felt safer with Lawler just one spot ahead.
Yeah. So the consensus right now is that Meyer is ahead of Lawler in the other top 100s that I'm looking at right now. Just looking at Lawler at the moment, Baseball America has him at 29. Pipeline has him at 23. Prospectus at 48, which is bizarre. But Meyer, Baseball America's got him at 15. Pipeline's got him at 14. And Prospectus has him at 17. So we are the only movers to this point that have Lawler ahead of Meyer. And Meyer, he's 6'3", $190. Lawler's 6'2", $190. There is nothing really separating those two there in terms of overall physique. I think what you saw was this more well-rounded game to Lawler than Meyer. And Meyer could be a better hitter. He could be a better field to hit guy.
Yep.
But Lawler could just be a better overall player. And I think you place some serious value in my opinion, the objectively better defender here. And I think I'm with you. I'd prefer this all-around shortstop when it comes to splitting hairs over the guy that, might hit 20 points higher, but, won't provide as good a defense and won't be as multifaceted.
Yeah, and I love Meyer's game. Like, he's well-rounded, but you hit the nail on the head, Jack. Like, what I really like about Lawler, and it's funny, he reminds me a little bit of a guy that we're going to talk about very shortly, which is Jeremy Pena. And the reason why I was so high on Pena going into this year at the big league level was that he doesn't need to be a high-end hit tool guy to impact the game. And we're seeing that. I mean, Pena's hit extremely well, but he's been up and down with offensive consistency if you look at the batting average, but he's giving you power. He's playing great defense. He's a good runner, and he's just a dynamic player. I look at Lawler. Yes, there could be some swing and miss in the early going, but he already has 6 home runs in 23 games. And again, we made these rankings before this, but this is what we saw could happen. 15 stolen bases in Lowe as well. I just see a guy that's going to impact the game more. And I don't think the swing and miss is going to be that much of an issue for Lawler. Like, I look at his swing. I like the moves. It's pretty quiet. He's a great athlete. Obviously, Meyer is pretty as safe as it gets when it comes to the swing from the left side. The bat to ball is really impressive, but he's striking out 27% of the time in the early going as well. So, I mean, there's no such thing as a can't miss high school bat. And I'll take the guy that's the freak athlete with plus defensive ability at shortstop, where Meyer's more of an average defensive shortstop. Probably he has time to be a little bit better. He's not a great runner. There's power projection, but it's not there yet. I'm honestly pretty floored, Jack, and I think it's going to change soon. But I am pretty floored that we're seeing Meyer, just the consensus guy ahead of Jordan Lawler. And as dumb as it sounds, I've seen so much weight placed on 7 months of age when it comes to draft age. And I really think that might be one of the big differentiators. It's like they're 5 months apart in age. And I swear that's something that legitimately is placed on value when it comes to the prospect rankings, because the track record shows that sometimes that can matter. I think it's pretty stupid.
I agree. I think that shit is very stupid. But I am also the type of guy that pounds the pavement for the sophomore in college being drafted ahead of the project freshman in college, even though you have, a year there in the NBA world. I mean, just looking at like the grades that you have on these guys right now, you've got, a 5-point jump in terms of present hit tool at the moment for Meyer. You've got him as a 40 hit with a 55 future. Lawler's at 35-55. Raw power is the same, 45-60 for both of them. Game power, the same, 40-55 for both of them. Run, Lawler is a better runner. You got a 50-50 for Meyer. You have a 65-65 for Lawler. And then in the field, that's where you see some of the discrepancy there. 40-55 for Meyer, 45-65 for Lawler. So you see a way higher ceiling defensively. You see one of the better defensive shortstops in all of baseball.
Yep.
And you see one of the better runners at the shortstop position in all of baseball, where Meyer might just be a better hitter right now.
Yep. 100%. And also, I'm more confident in Lawler getting into the power. I think the early results are pretty clear, 6 home runs versus 1. But besides that, I'm more confident in Lawler just tapping into game power, period, because he's just way more explosive. The exit velos are more impressive. Meyer's a guy it's feel to hit. I think he's going to fill out a lot more. And that's part of the reason why I have that long-term power projection, because he's 6'3", 188, 190. But I really do think it's going to be easier for Lawler to tap into the power.
I just laugh because I see an 80 raw power for the next guy, but just wrapping up the Meyer Lawler conversation. Whose situation do you like better? Because Bogaerts is going to be gone. I think we've learned that over the last week or so, that Xander Bogaerts will not be a Boston Red Sox likely through the end of this year. I mean, he has turned himself into a great trade chip, and the Red Sox falters have given Chaim Bloom the liberty to go trade a guy that said he doesn't want to be there because Chaim tried jipping him, which was bizarre to me. So Trevor Story is going to be your second baseman. Meyer's going to be your shortstop whenever he's ready, because Bogaerts won't be there. Lawler, Geraldo Perdomo is not going to block Jordan Lawler. No. And Lawler's got some time. Both these guys have some time. What do you have as their ETA at the moment? 2024 for both of them?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like 2024, I like what Arizona is going to be in 2024. I think I like what Boston's going to be. I'm not sure if I like it as much as I like Arizona, which is so
No,
weird to say.
Arizona is going to be really fun. And 2024 is aggressive, but I just think both these guys are going to climb quickly for their own reasons. Myers feel to hit Lawler's defensive ability. I like what's brewing in Arizona. I can't speak too much to what's brewing in Boston because you have a lot of guys that are aging, and then you have probably a Bogarts that's going to be gone. JD Martinez, what's he going to do? Like, it's going to be interesting to see how they approach it. But when I look at the Diamondbacks and that exciting young team with Corbin Carroll, Alec Thomas, who we're going to get to, Lawler up there, Perdomo could play second. This is a really fun team with interesting pieces that are already up and young at the big league level as well. I like what the D-backs have brewing over there, man. I'm pretty excited about what they've got.
100%. You got 36-year-old Merrill Kelly leading the storm. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, Merrill Kelly's ready to go. But honestly, Dre Jamison, another guy that looks really good in there.
Yeah, chirp. Ball State alum, Dre Jamison.
Another Ball State guy. But a guy that skipped college that comes in at 28, right? 28 on our top 100 list here is Jordan Walker, who this is one of the, I know you individually texted me after you were editing through some of these write-ups, and you just said you were like audibly laughing from the Jordan Walker write-up because of just how absurd it is, how much we like him, but just how crazy it is that he is the hitter that he has become this early in his professional career. I mean, this was a high school guy, one of the younger guys in his class that was committed to Duke, deemed very difficult to sign because both his parents went Ivy League, very much valued education. Jordan Walker's a smart kid that I think was very keen on going to Duke. I mean, it's a great school, great baseball school, kind of a no-brainer, right? But several $1 million can make all of us change our plans, and good for Jordan Walker to get that money, but also good on Jordan Walker to hit the ground freaking running, and good on the Cardinals for identifying a guy that was undervalued in the draft. A lot of people looked at this 6'5", big corner infield high school guy and said, oh, he's going to swing and miss a lot. And naturally that was kind of what everybody thought. But then we realize, hey, he doesn't really have that much swing and miss in his game. And he comes out in low A and makes a mockery of low A pitching, gets called up to high A and more than holds his own, was more than solid there. And now he comes back out in 2022 and he's in double. The Cardinals are doing they're back on their bullshit. And you know what? He's doing well. The power output is down. And I don't really care because this is Jordan Walker surviving in double A right now. I think it's putting more pressure on him just being back to ball oriented. And dude, this 20-year-old is doing phenomenal. Not 20 yet. He's 19 and 11 months, actually, let me say. In double A, is hitting 303, 431, 416. Slugging's a bit light, 22% K rate, 15% walk rate, and he swiped 10 bags. I don't care about the one home run because, as you mentioned earlier, I have an 80 raw power on Jordan Walker. He's going to tap into the power. I'm not worried about that. But, dude, the Cardinals are aggressive with guys, but I guess Jordan Walker, you can do it with.
Let's talk about the organization that he's in for a moment, because in recent memory, the gold standard in terms of player development is the Dodgers, the Rays, and the Guardians, right? Those are the three that we look at. Guardians pitcher specific, but when you look at overall track record of developing players, Dodgers and Tampa are the gold standard. Before that, it was St. Louis. And it still kind of is St. Louis. I mean, think about all the homegrown talent over the last 2 decades that the St. Louis Cardinals have pumped out. They have done something right for a very, very, very long time. They did something right in the 2020 draft, and they've got it right now. Aggressive assignment, okay. 19-year-old hitting 300 in double A, A-okay. This guy, he's insane. And I remember when we were going through the Cardinals top 10 prospects on this show, and you asked me what I watched from Jordan Walker to make me fall in love. And I said, I watched him take pitches. Like I watched him not swing. Yeah. And I was like, wow, this guy is all the way locked in at the plate. he can be that 55 grade future hitter that you have on him right now. He's a 40 at the moment as a 19-year-old in Double-A.
We got to update that too. Like I think he might be a 45 now.
So, okay, he's a 45, 55 hitter. He's got 80 raw power. He does have 80 raw power. Mm-hmm. And this was a guy that, I would constantly see highlights of. He was in the High A Midwest, which is now the Midwest League, or High A Central last year, now the Midwest League again. He was with Peoria last year when I was in the same league. And Walker was a guy that you keep tabs on. And Walker was the guy that you hop on Twitter and you see the Chiefs, tweet out, Walker hits one to the stratosphere. And it's like, I got to go hunt this video. And when I saw the video, I was just like, oh, yeah, there we go. He actually hit one to the stratosphere. That's what he does all the time.
Yep.
And I think you have 2 80 grade raw powers in this top 100 list, right? Yep. You've got him and O'Neal Cruz.
And that's it.
And that's it. So Jordan Walker, if everything goes right, and we're not pumping his tires, we're not shitting you. If everything goes right, he's a 50 home run guy.
Yeah. He could legitimately have multiple 50 home run seasons. There's no reason to believe that he can't be like Pete Alonso, but more athletic. and he can
play third.
And here's the thing we talked about on the Just Baseball show about like who the next top prospect could be. Jordan Walker could be one of the top prospects in baseball in this midseason update. I mean, to be 19 years old and doing what he's doing in Double-A, if we see the power start to come into the game here and start to be a factor, I mean, this guy does it all. What I've been really impressed with at third base is, he was a two-way guy in high school. So he has a massive arm. He was up to mid 90s on the mound.
Yeah.
He has more than a plus arm at third, but he has 10 stolen bases, right? He's a good runner. He's very agile for his size. He moves well. He can make throws from different arm slots, which is really impressive. He makes all the plays you need to make for a third baseman. He's sticking at the position. He's going to be at least average there, probably better than that. And now we have bat to ball that nobody expected. We have the power, as we were mentioning. You talk about the takes. He's walking 15% of the time in Double-A as a guy that's not even 20 years old yet. It's getting harder and harder to poke a hole in Jordan Walker's game. And with the upside that he has, this is a guy that could be a top 5 or so prospect in baseball very, very soon.
Very, very soon. That's going to be a very funny group of 4 to try and dissect, with Francisco Alvarez, Grayson Rodriguez, Corbin Carroll, and Jordan Walker. There are a couple other guys and a couple that we'll get to this episode that could be in that conversation for top 10, top 5 at the midseason update. Walker, totally different hitting profile, but think defensively and think build to Chris Bryant. That's what Chris Bryant is. 6'5", 220. He's a big guy that moves well. Yep. So, this guy is not going to be immobile, because when you think Chris Bryant, you see big guy, but certainly not immobile. No. And Jordan Walker won't play center field like Chris Bryant does. But when KB's out in center, he's not that good. He just takes up space and he's fine there. I think Walker is the type of guy that can play a good third base and could probably play a pretty good left field if they want, but he could also hop over to the other corner and play first base.
Oh, no problem.
I think there's going to be some defensive versatility here. I think stolen bases will still be there, not like 10 through the first 30 games, but I think 10 for a season might be there. And that's massive from a guy that is giving you 40 homer potential.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's a testament to the athleticism, and you see the athleticism in the box, which is what really stands out to me. I mean, this guy, his lower half is so consistent. He gets into his backside really well. He's a guy that likes to start upright and does that like Yelich sink back, and he does it really well, and it makes things really simple for him. I'm a huge fan of the way he approaches things, and look out for Jordan Walker. He's going to be a force, but a guy that finally got the call up to the big leagues, and I know we're both very excited about coming in at 27, is Alec Thomas. And he had a vintage, just like typical Alec Thomas swing for his first big league hit, which I love, which was caught a ball basically out of the catcher's glove and shot it the other way. And that's just what Alec Thomas does. Outfield prospect, Arizona Diamondbacks. What is he? Still 22 years old, 5'11", 210 pounds, second round pick in 2018. He has done nothing but hit. We just talked about him on the Just Baseball show. His 2021 season was phenomenal between double and triple A. Hit 313, 394, 559, 18 homers, 49 extra base hits, a 146 WRC plus 20% K rate, and a 10.5% walk rate. I mean, the kind of TLDR that I wrote on him for the prospect write-up is he just has as well-rounded of a game as you're going to find, and above average tools across the board with phenomenal instincts. Like, that is the safest prospect you'll ever find, but don't mistake that for like no upside. He could legitimately be an all-star if he hits enough.
Think about a 60 hitter with 55 raw power, 60 runner, 55 in the field. Like, he is an all-around good baseball player. I'll sign up for an all-around good baseball player 10 days out of 10. Think about Brian Reynolds. That guy, all-around really good baseball player. Thomas has, some louder speed and maybe some better defense there. But I think the hitting profile is very similar to Brian Reynolds if everything works out.
100%. I actually really like that comp because you're looking at 18 to 20, maybe on a good year gets to 25 homers, but so many doubles, some triples, just dynamic ability and consistency, bat to ball consistency. And that's what stands out with Thomas. He's such a phenomenal athlete. He repeats all of his crazy moves so well. He's really fun to watch hit because you can tell he knows himself as a hitter so well, where he takes one bad swing, he recalibrates, comes back in, and he's not making that mistake again. You're not going to fool Alec Thomas twice. And that's what makes him so good. So it makes him almost impervious to slumps, or as impervious as a baseball player can be to slumps, because he just works through things and makes tweaks in at bats. And that's where the instincts really kick in.
Let's play a quick game because we talk about 2021, the two breakout outfielders at the big league level, two of the best outfielders in baseball in 2021, Brian Reynolds and Cedric Mullins.
Yeah.
Floor, Brian Reynolds all day, every day. Ceiling, probably Cedric Mullins, right? Mullins was more exciting than Reynolds last year, but the level of concern, I mean, you said it right away this year. You would not be shocked if Cedric Mullins was just a one-year wonder versus Reynolds. He's going to do something like that continuously. So There are guys that have higher ceilings here, but I will take the already high ceiling of Alec Thomas paired with a floor that is not far off the ceiling at all. I'm going to take that because my heart rate is going to stay low. I'm going to be calm. I'm going to be collected. And I know that I'm getting a guy that is a fringe all-star for a decade.
100%. And that's what I love about Thomas is you have the high floor, you still have the exciting ceiling and potential there. That's going to be driven by the hit tool and the complementary tools, but you need to have an Alec Thomas in your system. If you're a minor league or if you're a big league team, I think every team can use that high floor Alec Thomas to balance things out, especially when you have the Corbin Carrolls of the world and Jordan Lawlers and all these guys that could be really dynamic. I love balancing out your system with an Alec Thomas, and the proximity is really what keeps him in the top 30. And then there's still a little bit of upside that you can dream on, gets him up there even more. But a guy that gets the edge just above him. And I think you could toss it up with either of these guys here. And it's been a rough debut at the big league level a little bit, but he's shown flashes. Josh Lowe, outfielder with the Tampa Bay Rays, he got the nod just above Alec Thomas because of what he did in AAA last year, how exciting his tools are, his power projection. He's been back and forth between AAA and the big leagues, but man, when this guy is right, it's pretty crazy what he's able to do at the plate. And he's starting to come alive at the big league level a little bit when he finally got a second stint up there. There's some swing and miss, but he's been able to keep that in check. And I mean, you look at the numbers, man, he was 2020 last year in AAA. Yeah. I think he could be a 2020 guy at the big league level almost annually. Great defender in center and can play all three spots quite well. Josh Lowe is a really, really interesting player that has as much upside as any outfield prospect.
And best case scenario, he can be 30-30.
Yep.
Alec Thomas can't be 30-30. Alec Thomas is really good. He's got a higher floor than Josh Lowe, but he can't be 30-30. Josh Lowe can be 30-30. And I mean, you mentioned the 22 homers, 26 stolen bases. This guy walked 13% of the time.
Yep.
He had a 291 batting average with a 381 OBP. So this is the type of guy that's getting on base all the time for Durham, who, by the way, we talk about Eugene, the high A affiliate of San Francisco all the time. You got a text from friend of the program, Michael Schwimmer with Big League Advance. He said the Durham Bulls could beat several major league teams last year because that team was that loaded. And Josh Lowe was a big reason why that team was that loaded. So I wouldn't, I wouldn't slam the panic button a la Kelnick and his debut last year with Josh Lowe this year. I think Josh Lowe is going to be just fine. I think there's going to be an acclimation process to the big league level. But I think once he does that, this guy can be a star.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's somebody that's kind of had to get acclimated to each level. He's struck out in the low 20% almost at every single stop, but offsets that with double-digit walk rates, power, and the speed. The defense kind of puts him over too. When I think that was a question for him. I think he's really good in either corner, can play center field as well as if you need him. But the speed and power combination is pretty rare. And at 6'4", 205, just continues to tap into that power even more. I am interested to see, how the defense continues to develop at the big league level, if they'll throw him in center a bit more, but I trust him big time in a corner. And what I really like is the swing adjustments that he has made. Again, there's going to be more swing and miss than Kyle Tucker and stuff like that, but I do see some similarities with the stroke to Kyle Tucker and similarities with the skill set in terms of the power that continues to tick up and, speed that impacts the game. He's a bit faster and there's a bit more swing and miss, but I'm a big fan of what we've seen from Lowe. And I think the more ABs he consistently gets out there, hopefully he gets a more consistent chance at the big league level. I think he's going to give them a lot. And I'm really interested to see how he continues to develop in the bat to ball department.
What do you see in the swing mechanics that is similar to Kyle Tucker?
It's this simple, like, I'm trying to describe it, but it's an upright stance that gets into the backside and just easy left-handed stroke that I really like. That there's an unconventional type of swing that they have that I really like. If you look at the way Tucker almost sweeps through it, it's almost like he sweeps through the zone.
What Tucker looks like he is literally just throwing his hands at the baseball and the bat head follows.
And it just sweeps through the zone and the bat lives through the zone. And I see the Lowe didn't used to be that way. He used to cut himself off big time. And he used to have that drift, as Robert Hassell was talking about, that cut himself off. And now Lowe is a guy that really is able to stay back better and keep that bat through the zone. And no one does it as well as Tucker. His swing is really unconventional, and that's why he makes so much contact. But there's some similarities there that I do really like with Lowe.
Got you.
So let's get to 25. Brett Baty, a guy who continues to prove that he can hit. He's really hit at every stop. The power has not quite come into his game the way that I think a lot of people have hoped. A lot of ground balls. He's cut the ground ball rate down this year, which is interesting because we haven't seen the power really become a part of his game with the ground ball rate dropping, which was kind of the hope. But he still continues to put up pretty good numbers. And so far through AA this year, 264, 350, 385 slash line. He's big, projectable, 6'3", 210. The Mets are really excited about what he can do. 22 years old, already in his second stint in AA. I love the bat, but at a certain point soon, we got to start seeing the power trickle in here. He had 12 home runs between low A and high A in 91 games last year, 1 home run through 25 games this year, and the K rate has jumped a bit to 29%. He's got to start tapping into this plus raw power. I mean, this is raw power plus, depending on who you ask. It's just not there yet.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, we got to see the K rate cut because you mentioned it, 29%, guys, 30 punch outs in 25 games. And I'm looking at what he did in the Arizona Fall League last year. Those 25 games at this point, same sample size, pretty much exactly 103 plate appearances with Binghamton, 102 in the Arizona Fall League. He struck out 31 times in 102 plate appearances in the Fall League. He struck out 30 times in 103 plate appearances in the spring so far. I need to see less swing and miss from Brett Baty because, to be totally honest, I don't think the power compensates for that much swing and miss. I think that the hit tool, when he puts the ball in play, does, but that K rate needs to jump to the mid-20s.
That, or he needs to start launching homers, and I think
and he's not doing either at the moment.
No. And so he's in this weird tweener range. And that's the thing, is I'm really encouraged by him cutting down on the ground ball rate by about 13%. or 14%, but now nothing's leaving the yard and he's pulling the ball more. And there's a little bit of concern for me with Baty and just what he's trying to be at this point, right? Because it's like, how are you going to tap into this power? And right now I see a guy that's continuously trying to tap into the power and just isn't quite doing it yet. And it's crazy because the exit velos are up there. He's put up 114s, 115s, which is nuts. I mean, it's elite exit velos, which is part of the reason why I think people just keep piling on and saying, okay, well, when is he going to tap into it? The Arizona Fall League got me really excited. You mentioned the numbers. The year last year overall was really good for a guy that was, 20, 21 years old between AA and high A. And he has every reason to be a top 30 prospect. But I mean, if we get to the midseason update and it's kind of this slash line with
guys are going to jump him.
You guys are going to jump him. And so I would say cautiously optimistic with Baty. He's still 22. I'm not concerned yet. But as we get to the top 25 prospects here, we got to be pretty particular. And he's probably one of the guys that I'm looking at. If there's not an adjustment in the next couple months, he's going to be one of the guys that gets lapped.
Baseball and football are the two what have you done for me lately sports. You can't hang on your laurels in baseball, particularly minor league baseball. You've got a great 2019. Guess what? You're going back to the complex and you're throwing 5 innings there if you can't figure it out in AAA. Yeah. Right? That's, and that's an ode to Mackenzie Gore there, but that guy was on top of the world. He was the best pitching prospect in baseball. And then all of a sudden he checks in at like 95 before this year because it is a what have you done for me lately sport. It is a production business. And right now there are guys that are below Baty, or I guess, higher up on the top 100 than Baty, that are just putting together way better seasons. So
look at Jordan Walker. How is Jordan Walker not going to lap him?
Exactly.
And a guy that just lapped him, Robert Hassell, he's already passed him. And there's a bunch of other guys that are putting up similar types of years. It's crazy to say that about Baty because he's still just 22. I love the projectability. And there's a scenario here where Baty explodes and we're like, okay, there it is. Right. But we need to see that and I was closer to 60 on the raw power for Baty. And it's tough because the exit velos are 70 grade, but at this point, the sample size is getting pretty big and we're not seeing enough just game power. So it is kind of getting to the point now where it's like, okay, when are we going to start to see him tap into it? Hopefully it's soon. If not, the expectations may have to shift a little bit because hitting the ball hard is great, but if you do it on the ground too much, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. So a guy that can get away with hitting it on the ground a little bit, and a guy that we just had on the podcast, Robert Hassell III. San Diego Padres have a gem here. As CJ Abrams graduates, this is far and away the top prospect in the Padres system, although James Wood might have a little bit to say about it in the coming months in terms of just closing the gap and being that top 100 guy for them as well. But I mean, Robert Hassell, we talked about on the episode, and if you don't believe in him now, even more so with just the way that he approaches the game mentally and the way he knows himself as a hitter. I mean, he is as well-rounded as it gets. I probably have to adjust the hit tool to more of a 50 net present and a 60 future. He has it all. And it's very similar to Alec Thomas, I think, in regards to tools across the board, great feel to hit, but I would say more power projection for Robert Hassell, which puts him a little bit higher up here.
Yeah, there's no such thing as park factor in the Midwest League. You're playing in the Midwest. There is no thin air. It's nothing like that. It gets humid. He's played in super cold weather. I've seen him with the net gaiter on and like the ski mask to retain any heat possible through the first month of the season. This guy's played 27 games in high A so far this year as a 20-year-old. He's got 5 bombs and 22 driven in. He's 9 for 9 in stolen bases, and he's slashing 352, 410, 533. He's borderline best hitter in minor league baseball at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Except for Moises Gomez.
Yeah. Except for Moises Gomez. Yeah.
But no, he has undoubtedly been one of the most impressive bats in the minor leagues. I mean, because it's picturesque when you look at the stat line, right? Like this is a dude that like, this is a dream of what you would want to be as a ball player. And if you look back on the episode, there was a point where when we were talking, he was like, guys in the big leagues are doing a little bit of everything. I want to do a little bit of everything. He's doing a little bit of everything.
He's doing a lot of everything.
A lot of everything, right? He's striking out 18.8% of the time. He's walking nearly 9% of the time. The 5 home runs, the 9 stolen bases. The bat to ball is really impressive at 352. He's playing good defense. He's doing everything. And this is a guy as well that we're looking at by mid-season. He could have a case to be a top 10 prospect as well. I really think
easily,
especially with what we know about the way he approaches the game too. And his psyche, and he's a smart player. He's a heady guy that really knows his game and knows who he wants to be. And there's a lot of value to that. I'm all in on Robert Hassell.
Yeah, that's the thing that I took away from our conversation with him is this guy stores all the information. Like his recall on that particular at bat that you brought up, that was a double to center in Lansing. Like that's the type of thing that not many hitters can do. I mean, the recall there and his ability to go back and say, I was beaten for a split second, but I came back and beat them a split second later. It was incredible to me. That's a guy that gets it.
Especially in the minor leagues and in the major leagues, but where you're playing a lot of the same teams many, many times.
6 times in a row.
You're going to know how they attack you and whatever. And if you have that recall and that memory, I mean, that is something that really separates hitters. You talk to some really good hitters, they'll be able to tell you what happened and what AB. That's what stands out to me the most with Jeff Conine is when we record Outside the Box with Jeff Conine, I can ask him questions about at-bats from 25 years ago. And he can tell you, what the pitch was, what it was doing. And I think that's a big differentiator for some very consistent and long tenured hitters are guys that can really recall and apply the past to the present. And that's something that you can't really teach. That goes in the unteachable category. Hassell is going to stick in center. I think the speed is one of the more underrated aspects of his game. I really think this guy is as well-rounded. You talk about Alec Thomas. I think he's right there with maybe more upside. I'm looking at Robert Hassell as one of my favorite prospects in baseball moving forward.
About that, Aram Layton putting a stamp of approval on a prospect at 24. Shout out that.
Let's do it. I'm very excited about him. And then another guy that finally got his big league debut, we've talked about on here a little bit. And MJ Melendez is one of my favorite, just all around. I don't know how to describe it. His swing is so unique that I love watching him swing all the time. I love his approach. He's just one of my favorite hitters to watch. 41 home runs in the minor leagues will do that for you. But a guy that really sticks to the approach, another really smart ball player. His father, Mervil Melendez, is a college coach, head coach at Florida International University. MJ's a catcher who does a great job behind the dish. But offensively is really what's gotten him up to the big league level. And so far at the big league level through his first 10 plate appearances, he's been really solid. Already he's picked up 3 hits, a double the other way. He looks really comfortable. What he did last year was a joke. MJ is somebody that I think is the future of the catching position for the Royals, but in the present, his bat's extremely valuable. It's pretty impressive what this guy was able to do to turn around his early going in his career after what was, not the best 2019, I would say. Hit 163 in high A with a 40% K rate. Bounces back in 2021 with a 21% K rate, hitting 41 home runs and walking 15% of the time. I'm totally sold on what we saw from MJ Melendez last year, and I think it's going to continue at the big league level.
Yeah, and when you hear 41 homers, when you think the minor league home run crown, you may think he's launching pull side, and you say, oh, how far is this going to go? He feels a lot like Chris Davis, when Chris with a C, when he was at his best. And I'm not talking mammoth strikeout rates or anything. I'm talking where the power goes, because Chris Davis, like we saw him in the home run derby when he was in Baltimore and put together those MVP caliber seasons. I mean, he was hitting home run derby homers to left.
Yeah. Inside out swinging it to left field.
Yes. Like that's what MJ Melendez can do. He's got pole to pole power. He can go dead center 440. He can go to right and launch it 400 feet, or he can sneak one just to the right of the left field foul pole. That's what Melendez can do.
And what's amazing with him to that point is he's one of those guys that just gets carry. You're just looking at the ball and you're like, that thing's still going. It's going. Oh man, it's gone. Like that's what he does. It's easy backspin. And that's where he gets that foul line to foul line power. He hits some balls that, it's that inside out swing that you're talking about. And I'm like, there's no way that thing gets out to left field. And he's a left-handed bat. And it does. It's absolutely incredible. I think that's a testament to the 29% home run to fly ball rate we saw from him last year. Like that's a sustainable figure from him. I mean, maybe it'll drop a little bit at the big league level, but like, this is a dude that I think a large portion of his fly balls are going to leave the yard. And that's, what you see from a lot of impact home run hitters. It's just a natural feel for carry. It's with MJ, he could be on his front foot. And there was like the swing we're talking about with Hassell, and he can almost one hand swing it, and it's going to carry out of the yard because of the way that he backspins baseballs and he stays behind it. And I really like his swing. And that's why it's really not a high swing and miss risk for MJ. And again, he walks a ton. That's more than evident. And he's a good catcher. He needs to make some slight improvements with the blocking and things like that. But I know pitchers love pitching to him. He's a good receiver. He's got a plus arm back there. I mean, you got to be excited. This is somebody that realistically could end up being one of the best catchers in the game if it all is put together. And the only reason he's not ranked higher is just that we only had one big year from him. And I think to go from unranked to 24, is that where we're at now? 23. Unranked to 23 is pretty freaking insane. But I know when we're talking about like, wait, this guy can be the best catcher in baseball. Why is he ranked 23? It's because it's hard to push him any higher than that after 1 year. But we really like what we saw in that 1 year.
100%. We'll see what the Pelota has to say about the home run to fly ball rate, because obviously that's been a big problem and that's been one of those hot button topics. But as the weather starts to warm up in all 30 parks and the ball starts to fly a little bit in that air, we'll see what that ball looks like. But I'm not concerned about Melendez at all. Another thing real quick, the guy can kind of run too. He's just a good athlete.
Yeah. No, he's a really good athlete. And you can see that just in every aspect of his game. Also kind of a gym rat. Again, like 2020 was a big opportunity for him to just kind of go back to the lab and fix things, and made major swing adjustments.
Yeah. Tweet out the purple devil emojis at 5 a.m. in the lab cooking.
Up first. Yeah. He's awake while you sleep. Like, but he is that kind of guy. And made the swing adjustment as well. It was a big leg kick guy before, has toned that down, simplified things, and then also really simplified his approach. And that was a big thing. Him getting into, I don't want to give away too many nuggets because I don't want to give away how to get MJ Melendez out, but he was detailing kind of just how he adjusted his approach and trusted it and committed to it. And he was saying, in 2021 or 2020 or 2019, in 2019, he had this malleability to his approach that really was leaving him out to dry, right? Like the approach didn't work in one game, so I'm going to adjust it now. And now he's getting caught in between. And now he's trying to re-identify who he is and what he's trying to do almost game to game. Now he's found this approach. He sticks with it. And he's like, if the pitcher executes 3 pitches that, compromise my approach, that's okay. I'll dare him to do it again next AB. And I think that's something that really stood out for him and allowed him to not miss mistakes. Going into 22, this is somebody that we've been singing the praises on for a long time. We had him at 22. I know the top 100 officially went out after the season started. We had him this high before the season started. And this is a guy we've been talking about on here for a while, Jeremy Pena, shortstop, Houston Astros. I mean, look at the big league results thus far. I think it's pretty clear what we saw in him. And Jeremy Pena was somebody that I kept trying to emphasize to Astros fans when I would get questions from Astros fans. They're like, how are we going to deal without, having Correa and whatever? I'm like, this guy's not going to replace Correa, but I promise you, he will make things feel pretty decent. Like you're not going to
like him a lot.
You're going to like him a lot. And people are like, oh, he's barely played above high A. He only played 30 games in AAA. I'm like, just trust me. Trust me. And some Astros fans did. And it's funny seeing when he goes off, I get some Astros fans tweeting at me like, thank you for like calming us down or whatever, because it's scary when you have a star shortstop leave. But honestly, this is a big reason I think why the Astros were okay with Carlos Correa leaving. I don't know if they ever were going to pay him, but I think you can make it a little bit more. You can be a little bit more comfortable with letting him walk when you know that you have a guy that can walk right in there, has all the intangibles. I mean, we talk about what he does in terms of how much the big leaguers love his attitude, but also a plus glove from day one, which is what really made me confident in him, plus power, which we've already seen with 6 home runs in 27 games, and just a good athlete. He's a really impressive player, already accumulated a 1.4 F4 at the big league level, and the bat's only going to get better and better as he gets more comfortable.
Yeah. What's he at right now? Like 225?
242, 305.
Wow. That's
495.
jumped recently.
Yeah, it's jumped. Again, like every time you think, oh, no, he's going to start slumping, he breaks out of it because he doesn't strike out an egregious amount. I'd like to see him walk a little bit more. But if he's hitting you low 240s with the power and the glove, it's great. It's just, it's the on base. I want to see him, tick up a little bit on the on base, walk a little bit more. But at the end of the day, like, we're splitting hairs with a guy who is clearly adding power to his game. If you go back to his AAA stint before he messed up his wrist last year, his last 57 games, he's hit 16 home runs, Jack, between AAA and the big league level. Yeah. So, I mean, this is 30 home run potential here with plus defense at short. And then we'll see how the hit tool develops. But even if he's a 45 hit tool guy, even if he's a 250 hitter, doesn't really matter.
If you promised me 240 with a 300 OBP and the possibility of Jeremy Pena power and speed with the Jeremy Pena defense that we know exists, I'm signing up for 240 with the 300 OBP. I'm absolutely signing up for that because all the other tools are amazing. They are amazing, dude. Defense, this guy is as silky as they come already. And this is a guy that will contend for gold gloves in the American League at shortstop for the next decade. He is already one of the better defensive shortstops in the American League. I think everybody has seen that already. Guy's got a cannon. He gets to balls. He doesn't have the Correa cannon, but nobody has the Correa cannon.
Yeah, you don't need that's just a luxury at that point. That's like a race car going 210 instead of 200. Like, okay.
Exactly. So like, I think, you can't measure him against Correa. You can measure him against all the other shortstops in the American League. And Correa is a shortstop in the American League. Okay. But I think Pena's within the top 5. If you're going to handpick and say, I'm just looking at defensive alignment, who do you want as your shortstop? Pena's within the top 5 in the AL.
And that was what really sold me is, I was hearing a lot about the defense. And so I took a day, Jack, where I did this with CJ Abrams too. And that's where I was really sold on the glove at shortstop after, there were some questions there. I did it with Matt McClain as well. And it really sold me on the glove, but I sat down and I queued up every defensive put out from the season from last year of Jeremy Pena. And it wasn't as many as you'd think because it was only 30 games. So I literally sat down there for like 30 minutes and watched them all. I was so floored. I mean, the way he'd made difficult plays look easy, impossible plays possible. It was incredible. And that's what really sold me. Jack, who do you think leads the major leagues in defensive run saves at shortstop?
I think I know the answer.
Yeah. Jeremy Pena is edging out Andrew Velasquez, who's only in the big leagues because of his glove. Yes. Which great story. I love Andrew Velasquez over with the Angels. 7 defensive run saves for Jeremy Pena. 5 for Andrew Velasquez, 5 for Paul DeYoung, 4 for Nico Horner, 4 for Jorge Mateo, 3 for Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, and then everybody else at 2. I mean, this is just a different notch here.
So you say great story for Velasquez. I think great story for Pena. And I want to dive into this farther. I'm sure somebody has written something up about that. And I think I mentioned this on the Just Baseball show. Like, born in the DR, went to high school in Providence, Rhode Island, went to the University of Maine. The shortstop for the Houston Astros and the possible American League
went to the University of Maine, third round pick.
Maine Black Bear. Like that's bizarre. And so I want to figure out more about Pena.
Yeah. So, and like a little bit more on the backstory there is like, he was drafted because the glove was so insane. They were just like, okay, in the 3rd round, we can get ourselves a guaranteed Nick Ahmed almost. Let's do it. Let's do it. That's really what they thought they were getting is like a guaranteed Nick Ahmed with more physical projection. I will not buy for a minute that the Astros thought that Jeremy Pena could mature into the hitter that he is. He's thrown on 20 plus pounds of muscle without losing any speed. He went from, that more wiry strength to just this ripped. He's jacked. He's huge. I mean, he is a really, really athletic, strong, big dude, and it didn't compromise his mobility and his agility. He's going to be a problem for a long time. And I'm really excited to see Jeremy Pena continue to improve at the big league level. And that was a guy that we collected a lot of his cards before the season. I would say his cards are probably a little bit too expensive now, Jack, unfortunately. But early in the season, if you were listening to us, definitely a card that was worth picking up. But we'll have some more names for you soon. Final name in today's episode, and a guy that I also think is a little bit of a risk to get leaped by some other people on this list, but is off to a pretty good start in high A this year. 20 years old, Noelvi Marte, shortstop prospect in the loaded Seattle Mariners system. Marte has some of the best raw power and just power period at the infield position in the minor leagues, especially at the shortstop position. International prize free agent, 20 years old, 6'1", 180 pounds so far this year, 255, 364, 436 slash line, 13% walk rate, 21% or 22% K rate, which I really like. That's really encouraging from him. Yeah. 4 homers so far this season. My only concern with Noelvi Marte is how much lies in the hands of the power production from him, because I don't think you're going to get that much defensively. And we have to see the hit tool develop. But I really do like what we're seeing from him in the early going, and I continue to get excited about his improved feel to hit.
Yeah, I dig him. He's got an 800 OPS so far, 24 games. He's hit 4 homers. So, I mean, this is a guy that's slugging 436. So he's got 24 knocks, just 9 are for extra bases, 5 doubles, 4 homers. So he's slapping singles around. Noelvi Marte's value does not lie in slapping singles around and hitting 320, because he can't hit 320. No. He can hit 260 to 270 with 25 homers. That's what you want to dream on with him. And he plays a fine shortstop. What do you think about his defensive prowess?
I'm a little nervous on the defense at short, to be honest. Like I think there's a chance he could move to third.
So that tells you that the power needs to tick up even more.
And I mean, and the exit velos are really impressive on Noelvi Marte. I mean, he's somebody that's got some freakish power potential. And he's explosive in the box. That's one of those guys that's rotational. He explodes on the baseball. And that's what the big calling card is. I think that's what people really like about Marte, and a big reason why we see him ranked so high is the power potential. But at the same time, with some defensive questions, with how much are those complementary tools going to play in, I could see Marte getting leapfrogged by some of these more well-rounded prospects. But the upside of Marte is 30 plus home runs at the shortstop position, which is very exciting, obviously.
Yeah, 100%. Marte, I'm curious, what you think about like the swing mechanics and how he gets more out of it. Like if he were to get more, if he were to transform as a hitter, what does that look like?
I think the swing is built for enough like power already. What I think for him is just his feel to hit is really the big difference here, right? Like picking the right spots to try to go pull side, picking the right spots to really try to explode and lift the baseball is really where I think he taps into the power. Right now, he's a guy that's pulling the trigger a lot. He's swinging at pitches that he can't do that much with. And I think that's a big reason why we're seeing the power be inconsistent. But when he pulls the trigger at the right pitch, everything looks really good. I mean, he's explosive. He's pretty simple at the plate. I like the swing. It's just when you're swinging at breaking balls, tailing away from you in 2-1 counts, how are you going to be powerful? How are you going to tap into big time power? So for me, it's more the hit tool side of things than the actual, present power and present swing that holds him back.
Yeah. I feel like with Baty and Marte, we're just talking about them. I don't want to say negatively, but we're talking about them in less, lauding away as we are the Jordan Walkers and the Hassels. But
yeah, because these guys have been on the top 100 for a while, right? Like these are guys that have been regarded as top prospects for a while. Baty's a early first round pick. Marte's a $1.5 million guy. Like they've been on this list for a while because of the upside. And there's a certain point now where it's like, okay, upside needs to turn into production. Yeah. And we're seeing flashes of it. I think Marte's start is encouraging. I think what he did last year was really solid, 17 homers. But I need to see a more calculated approach. And I need to see a guy that's picking his spots to unleash on baseballs and not just lunging at breaking balls away and rolling over. It's really what it is for me. Is the swing is built for power, but I need to see, him put himself in better spots to tap into that power.
Yeah, 100%. I like this crop, man, but we start with Kirby tomorrow. That's exciting.
We start with Kirby tomorrow, also Hunter Green. So 2 triple-digit fastballs. 3 triple-digit fastballs, actually, because we get to Espino in there too. Yeah. So the next crop is going to be insane also as we get to the top 20 prospects in baseball. And also a shortstop that's been on the top prospect list for a long time in Marco Luciano, who is turning it into production now and consistency. So that's kind of the difference between the Martes and the Lucianos of the world. Really fun list that we went through here with these 10. Really excited to get into the next 10 on the next episode. Any other thoughts, Jack, as we close out 30 to 21?
I just love that we talked about Alec Thomas, man. And I watched Hassell for 2-3 weeks last year. I've been keeping tabs on him this year. I think Hassell and Alec Thomas are 2 of my faves.
I'm very excited. I got to say Jordan Walker's probably one of my favorite prospects in all of baseball, period. Hassell as well. So these are all guys. I think this is that group where it's like, could take it to the next level, could get to that next spot. This group could have several guys that are in the top 10 by the midseason update. And we're going to get to the top 20 in tomorrow's episode of the Call Up. As always, thank you for listening. If you could take a minute to leave a review, that would be awesome. Helps us grow the show. Would really appreciate it. Also, check out the Loop link in the description to hunt some of these players and their cards on the Loop app, 24/7 cards at your fingertips. You can also buy some cards on eBay as well if you don't want to roll the dice as much. Use that link in our description so they know that we sent you to Loop. As always, thank you for listening, and we'll talk prospects with you tomorrow.